Hi, welcome to the 1 in 20 show, where we're looking to find the next 1 in 20 successful individuals who are pursuing their passion so that you can too. And today we're joined by Hundo. Hundo is an American-born rapper from Atlanta. In 2017, he released his first project under his own label Potluck, Everybody Cooks, Everybody Eats. Since then, he has brought on many young creatives that all strive to make music that matters. His latest project, This Is Not the Album, is his best yet, with lyrical and deep tracks that all reflect on his character and mission to be and make others heard. Welcome to the show.
What's going on?
This is round
Evan
two.
Rogers.
Take two.
Dude, take two, take three, take four.
Yeah, who cares?
I'm here for it.
Yeah, we're here, man. It's super cool. Before the show, we've been talking for a little bit about how cool it is for people who are on the grind, on the come up, to connect, and how that's so different than what a lot of people think it is. You know, the biggest thing being like, how do I even get started in what I want to do? I know I want to be a rapper, or I know I want to be a filmmaker, or I know I want to do, whatever it is in the arts, but I don't know how to do it. Right. So how did you start? Where did you come from? Why is it hip hop? What's the whole vibe that you got going?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I would start back from the beginning. Like, it's just I think you kind of look at the way that you're raised sometimes, just your environment, and just like the unique things about your personality, the unique things about your story. Yeah. That kind of show that it's always been there. Like for me, it was being born in Atlanta, and then being raised in Pittsburgh, and then spending a few years right outside of Chicago, and then even living in Mississippi for a year, and now being in Southern California, where I didn't even come out here to pursue the entertainment industry. But it's just been this kind of trail that's led me to this point. Yeah. Raised by a single father who he has a PhD in organizational development. So cool. It's actually industrial organizational management theory. Wow. So yeah, man, like I didn't really grow up in a musical household per se. It was more so a business one. So just learning his theories, things that he was patenting on businesses, and how to influence people, and how to build these structures that we all live in and exist in. So I think that being there always kind of led me. It kind of showed me that there was something a little bit different there. Whether it was even just being in like 4th grade and just making my own comic books. Like I would draw my own characters, and then I would pass them to my friend who would ink the comic books. Like I would pencil them in, I would pass them to my best friend, Tyler. Shout out Tyler. Tyler Richardson in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There you go. And then he would ink them in, and then I would pass them to another friend who would then color them in, and then we would staple them, laminate them, pass them around, charge like 25 cents for people to read them. So like looking back, and I was always kind of like that weird kid. There was always like that other thing about me that was unique. But then fast forward to today, where I had the profession as a youth pastor. So I knew that for 4 years I was preaching in a church in Woodland Hills, and just being involved with the youth, and having a real passion for inspiring others and using my voice to make a change. Yeah. So I mean, for a while, hip hop was just like in the background. I always had a love for music, a love for that style of art. But the bigger thing was communication, and the bigger thing was structures and creating jobs. Yeah. Being a job creator for other people. So as far as probably the reason I'm here now, the Potluck Collective. Boom. Yeah, man. I had left the structure of church. Yeah. And I had realized that a lot of organizations are kind of built to assist the guy at the top. Kind of like they're in a pyramid type of structure, in a sense, where it's a lot of people under here that just give of their efforts, of their talents, and there's not really a clear path for how they can receive. Like they're putting in all this work, but when does the flow come back to them? Yeah. And it was after being in that structure that it was a God that had given me the vision, where it was like, hey, if everybody cooks, then everybody should eat. If everybody's giving in, there should be enough to go around. And it was like, what is that? And then it was literally, it's the potluck.
That's so cool.
Like, it doesn't matter who started it, like who made the flyers for it. It's all about who contributes to it. And if we all give our gifts and our talents to a bigger cause, then it helps us so much more, and it makes a difference. And you can get that love that everybody kind of puts their touch on it, and they do feel a part of the brand, a part of the business, and they can take ownership in it, literally and figuratively. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. It's hip hop. always had a love for. I used to have these long car rides with my dad. My parents were divorced when I was younger, so my mom lived in Atlanta, my dad lived in Pittsburgh. So it was these long 12-hour car rides.
Wow.
And he would just play these oldies, whether it was like Biggie Smalls or like some R&B. He'd play like the Temptations, 112. So and my dad's the type of person who would listen to the same songs over and over again. So I think that's where I started to like learn lyrics and things like that. Repetition. So those unique things, it wasn't like something I just woke up and was just like, oh, I see cool rappers, like I think I should do that, or I could fit into that mold. Yeah. It was just a manifestation of, you know, the path that I've been on. Yeah. Even when I didn't realize it.
Yeah. That's so cool. And that's the coolest thing I think about hip hop, is that everybody has their own unique backstory. The people that made it into the mainstream, or the people who have, you know, developed labels or whatever it is, they all have that similar story where they come from a different background. They're different. That's it. Right. I mean, it's literally like they had a desire and a passion to pursue something. Right. And they knew that it was going to be something in the music industry. They didn't know what. And then it was like, oh, I want to be a rapper. I want to use my voice. Right. And that's so cool about Potluck. That's a big reason why I wanted to have you on, is just to talk about like branding, because we do a lot of that on this show. We talk a lot about how to like personally brand yourself. Yes. Why it's important to create your own entity when no one's looking. Right. And we're going to get into that obviously, but that's the coolest thing, is I think that's something that's missing from a lot of mainstream media, if not all of it, is that the grind happens when people are asleep. Yep. And that you're actually doing stuff and creating an entity, a body of work that you can present to somebody before people are paying attention. But that's the beauty in it. It's the silent grind, right? Like I think that's what you guys are doing with Potluck, huh? Definitely. And you can't get caught up in who's looking. I mean, in this day and age, and we were talking about it even before we started rolling, is just with social media, where there's this desire to kind of show everyone what you're doing and to try to get like the highlights. You take 20 pictures and you only show the best one or two. Yeah, right. That puts you in the spotlight. But it's really like you were saying, the silent grind. I mean, like Lil Wayne said it best, like real G's move in silence like lasagna. So so I mean, it's that, like what you're doing when no one's looking is your character. Right. You know, we in an era where we're focused so much on personas and personalities and trying to, you know, copy or mimic like a popular one. It's who you are when nobody's looking, who you are when you don't have any views, who you are when you don't have any clicks. And with the Potluck, I've tried to instill those values. We have a lot of young people, a lot of college age students on our team, and it's we don't get caught up in the numbers game. We don't get caught up in trying to do things to showcase for other people. We focus on quality. Yeah. We focus on being quality people, and then that's going to provide a quality product. And numbers, streams, likes, verified checks, that's a byproduct of all of the work that you put in, sometimes for years when no one is looking. They say the average entrepreneur has 13 years of work experience working for somebody else, grinding, learning these things behind the scenes, so that when it's time for you to be promoted and elevated, then you've already got your content. You got your library. You understand everything. You understand. You get to know every part of the process. Like I've told the team, like we do not want to be overnight successes. We don't. We want to work in a way that it's going to look like it came overnight. We got to put in those 10,000 hours. Yeah, totally true. And I was just thinking, like, you take away, if the internet crashed and never came back, where's the product lie? Do you watch Gary Vee? No. Dude, he said the same exact thing. Did he really? Right? It was like, and it's great because when you're a creative and when you're a hard worker, it's the same kind of wavelength that you're on. If Instagram crashed tomorrow, how many businesses, how many people would lose themselves? Oh, lots. Hundreds of thousands, probably. I mean, people wouldn't know what to do. I've been noticing like an average too of the amount of influencers who have reached or are at that 1 million mark. There's a lot. There's like hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands now that are at the 1 million mark, the 7-digit mark. Right. And I'm like, they have that K or they have the M. Yeah, right. Cool. Yeah, ooh, cool. But like I'm thinking about it and I'm like, well, so then what happens if your main source of income is ads? Yes. And you're running ads of just like a photo of you wearing a product or a photo of you, you know, in reality, if you go back to like the 1920s and 30s,
yes,
the only point that those people wanted an individual for an advertisement was to have somebody literally holding a Coke can or holding a dish, dish soap or holding something.
Right.
The person didn't matter. It was the product that mattered.
Exactly.
And if you think about it that way, like I'm just having a crazy realization, but like if you think of it that way, it's so true because now all of these brands are looking just for the audience. But people don't realize that. People think that they're all-star people that they follow or whatever.
Right.
They very well could be like amazing people. I'm just saying like for the influencers that do nothing but promote on Instagram.
Yes.
That's all that they're doing. They're just promoting a product. That's how they're getting paid. But then just like a fresh face or a model or something would be the head of a campaign, the minute they get old or the minute that the look changes, they're gone.
I'm prepared for the crash, man.
Yeah.
I would never want to speak that. Like I definitely love, and I will say that I love Instagram. I love the marketplace that's on there.
Yeah.
I enjoy that there's new ways for people to start businesses and promote their products. But if that's all that you have, if that's all that you're working on, imagine if and when it does crash, when the bubble bursts. We have to be able to see that, just like the housing crisis in like 2008. Like what do we do once the value of influencers goes down? And that's why it's more important to make sure that you're developing a good product, that you're providing a service, that you're caring for your consumers instead of just trying to sway them with the attention, with like the little nugget or the carrot. And it's okay. It's an interesting tactic, but what have you really built?
And those brands are running perfectly legitimate businesses that in a lot of ways have been around for, some of them like 50 to 100 years. The main ones, like even just Coca-Cola, it's been around forever. And they've nailed the advertising market every single time. So this is just a wave for them. They just know that everybody's eyes are on Instagram rather than in the streets looking up at buildings. I mean, honestly, like that's all going, paper and like print advertising is going away completely almost because it's almost non-existent because you don't need it. So, but that's a sidebar, but like that is what's important. That's so important. Like people, I'm tired of like, feeling like the art that I do or the art that someone like you or like somebody else I know that isn't 100% in the mainstream yet. Right. That it's not legitimate because the numbers aren't there, because that's going to kill a lot of people. And that kills my friend. Like I have a lot of film friends who wanted to do it. Then they quit because they're like, oh, I don't have people watching it. So what's the point? And I get it. Right. But at the same time, like why is everything digitized? Why can't you just like you just did recently? You just had like an album release party and stuff. Yeah. Why can't we do stuff like that again? Why isn't that concrete? Why isn't that a good thing?
And that's why I did it. It was a creatives only event because I mean, with the team, there's always that challenge of just, realistically, sometimes we do care about marketing. We do care about the image. Yeah. And, the thought process was, I just released an album. Let's get a whole bunch of fans or let's get a whole bunch of people that are going to make me look cooler. And it didn't sit right with me. And that's the thing I would say to all creatives and to all entrepreneurs. Really focus on what sits right with you and what sits right with your brand. Yeah. So I wanted to do something to provide a service to give back to people, to invite other creatives, other entrepreneurs, business people that wanted to, not just to network, because, that's a big LA term, but to share resources where it's like, okay, I've got this attention because I've got a good product right now, but let me give back. Let me show people literally how I've done it, like the recording equipment that I use, the people that print my t-shirts, let me introduce them to my graphic designer, whole entire process. And it went really well because I think there's very few environments where it's not about your followers. We're not going off of people's feeds and being like, oh, this would be a great person to have here because if they tweet about it, then I can leverage their network and this and that. It's like, let's just put people that love the process and not just the finished product, because that's, I think that's the game that we're in, like you were saying before, the game. And I love that term because it is like, this is our sport, and it's the process. If you're Kobe Bryant, if you're Michael Jordan, it's the weight room. Yeah. It's not the slam dunk from the free throw line. It's the squats that you have to do to make that possible. Yeah. And us putting in that work, even just you working this set today, like people don't necessarily, they'll see the face, but they don't see all the work you know, that I just got to see before we even started rolling with the cameras, the lights, everything.
With anybody that does it,
yeah. So I think the more that we highlight the process, and I think that's our responsibility, which is why, you know, it was a no-brainer for me to come onto this show. Anytime that we can talk about the process and not just the persona or the product, then I think we're doing a service to the people.
Totally. Oh my gosh, 100% echo that. But that's the thing is I keep thinking
100%. I see what you did there.
Yeah. That's what I keep thinking about though, is I just keep thinking like every time there's a small success for this show, like not for me only as a person, but just for this show, right? Every time there's a small success, I think, wow, that's great. Like, I can't believe that happened, or I'm so glad, similar to like with you. And we're going to jump into your album that you just released in a little bit. But
thank you.
That whole thing is, how many times have we watched an interview or a, you know, like even just like an on the spot interview or a sit down interview or a Tonight Show episode or something where you know that these people who are very talented. I think anybody who gets interviewed in the music industry for the most part is pretty talented.
Right.
Same with movie stars, honestly. There's a lot of talent there. There's a reason they're on top for the most part. But like you watch like if right. It's not 100%. I don't think the
like
industry
95%.
Yeah. Don't think the industry is perfect, but I don't, you know, nothing is, but you know, like Post Malone could go. Yeah. He just did a media tour around because he's teasing his new album and all that stuff, and he goes on the Tonight Show, and then he goes on Kimmel, and then he goes on Colbert, and he hits all of them. Yeah. But I watch those, like I think that's part of why I wanted to start this, because I watch those and I see like he's getting asked the exact question every single time.
Right.
Like, how would that make me feel if I was the artist?
Right.
Like, I'm not even getting to talk about my craft.
Right.
And I'm not even getting to say like why I put so much into the album, and it's a time constraint. There's like not enough time. It's like 5-minute segments at most that I'm getting to talk about something. And most of the time it's fun and jokes because it's good for ratings. But
exactly.
Like, that's why this is raw and it's good. And I think that's why like I wanted people like you, and I'm getting a lot more in a similar way who are about the grind and the hustle and want to be a part of that. Yes. So let's talk about your album that you just released, because this is something that this is your second album. This is not the album. This is your second album.
Yes, thank you for knowing that.
Yeah, I didn't know that until today, actually.
A lot of people think it's my first, and they're just like, yo, your first project is like, I dropped one that like nobody listened to.
Oh, okay.
like at all. I mean, it's still, because of the work that I put into it, like, it still has value to me. Yeah. But it's like, the streams are like sitting low, and you know, my quality's gone up since then, but it's still part of the process, like you were saying. Yeah,
so your new album is 7 or 8 songs?
It's 9.
9 songs. 9 songs.
Yes.
Your producer, Justin, who we hope to have on the show as well, Just Beats. He's 19 and he's part of Potluck. And, you know, you got your friend Noah also, Noah Bentley, is he 19 as well?
Yes. Yes.
These guys are young and they're grinding, and you guys put together an album, and like
definitely
it's the coolest thing for a label like you guys, that you created authentically. You didn't need somebody's dad or brother or whatever to create something because of the name. It's like you guys created something.
Definitely.
So when you express yourself on this album and just in general through hip hop, why do you feel like that's the best way to express what you think, your thoughts, and like your opinions on life?
I think the thing that I love about hip hop is that it's the music of the struggle. And the more that it's in the forefront, and there's such a wide variety of artists that we can listen to. I mean, we could get into a conversation about like who gets chosen to be in the mainstream. But if you do study, if you do look, there's people that you can relate to. I mean, even Nipsey Hussle, who had just passed away. Like there's some people that aren't even like a fan of the style of music that he makes, but when you realize what he was doing, the business principles that he was teaching through his music, like the Jay-Z's of the world, where he goes from talking about the business of selling drugs, and now he's talking about these major endorsements and these collaborations and the businesses that he's starting, and he's putting people on, even telling them to invest in art and to invest in real estate. There's keys and there's gems there, but it's the music of the struggle. Like it was birthed from the struggle, and now it's becoming into the mainstream. but it's also something that's very near and dear to the culture from people that had limited resources, like, even just the sampling in music, like, where there might have been a lack of music education, or at first there weren't like the greatest musicians in the world that were lending their talents to hip hop, and that's changing now. But these were people that were just like, look, what do we have? And what can we make with what we've got right here? Whether it was pencils and pens on the desk at the lunchroom, or a big old studio with the SSL boards. It's all about the process and all about the grind. And the form of communication is awesome. It's very direct, and it's unlike other genres. I think people definitely want to hear about your story, not just a story that's easily applicable. Like, I mean, I love the Beatles and I love other acts, but they make songs more so for the world. But with hip hop, I mean, if you're doing it right, it's more about like, how did you get here? Where are you from? What streets did you grow up on? Who do you work with? The name dropping of the friends and like the homies that are there from the beginning, the ideology of day ones. These are things that are near and dear to my heart. So it's the best type of art form for me to do what I love, and it brings people together too.
Totally. Well, and your new album is so like I've listened to some of your older stuff as well, like some of your freestyles and singles, and
thank you.
Comparing it to the new album, I see it as like there is like a huge step of growth. Not that the early stuff was wrong or anything. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just different. Like you've become. When I was listening through it, I was just thinking, the word that came into my head was just lyrical. Like you have these long strings of, like, Bulletproof has so many strings of lyrics and rhymes and everything built into that. So what kind of taught you, like, because you did say earlier that like hip hop was like on the brain, but it was never like a thing until you actually put it into action, right?
Right.
So how did you learn how to string along all of that?
I always talked a lot as a kid. I know if there's any like teachers from like elementary school or like high school or watching this, they'll be like, yeah, that guy, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just even growing up with my dad, just always being a cut above with the in a lot of black communities, we call it code switching and stuff, where he would go and listen to Ludacris, but then he would be able to get on the phone and then, and talk that business talk. And we would literally like turn down 50 Cent and then like, yeah, Jim, we're definitely, you know what I mean? Those TPS reports. Or,
right.
You know what I mean?
I've heard people say like, you're a white boy voice or whatever.
You're white boy.
Oh, it's that it's that movie that came out.
Sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Sorry
that's
to
what I'm
bother
thinking
you.
of. Yeah.
But seeing that kind of code switching, and then also having a dad that, when I would ask him what a word meant, he'd be like, just go look it up in a dictionary. So getting my vocabulary there. I loved reading books as a kid. Like I was the type that, I definitely went outside. Yeah. I definitely had friends, but I would love to just sit in with like a good book, like the Harry Potter books, things like that. Just reading these 300-page novels at the top of my bunk bed with my little brother underneath. Older brother's always got to get the top one.
Yeah, sure.
But shout out
Reed.
Shout out the top bunk, man. So that's prime real estate.
Yeah,
right,
it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. But yeah, just focusing on that, and then realizing that whether it was school speeches or preaching, which is another format, it's the same kind of heart, it's the same kind of essence, and it's about getting a message across. What's the best way that I can get this across? The only subject I was great in high school was English. I was the type that I would have like 105% in English class, and like embarrassingly like terrible, abysmal numbers in math class. Yeah. I won't even say it out loud.
I don't even want to think about it. Yeah.
It was bad.
Here, yeah.
But it was always fun for me just to have a mastery of words and to have a mastery of, okay, here's what I want to get across. Here's how I want them to feel. How do I get there?
Yeah.
And it's definitely, it's a spiritual thing. Yeah. It's an emotional thing, but then it's also a skill thing, where it's like, all right, what's the clever way that I can go about this with, whether it's alliteration, where we're talking about, poetry, metaphors, similes, and how can I get this across in a clever, witty, impactful, emotional, and important way, so that the listener can really grasp what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It's definitely there's melodies that go into it as well, but I come from a background of just how do I get this message across? What's the best way? So songs like Bulletproof, It starts with an emotion. It starts with seeing something. For me, I'll either starts right in here, like something I'm dealing with or struggling with, or it'll be an issue in the world. Like you've seen some of the freestyle videos or things like that. And it's like, what's going to be the way to make my audience understand this subject in a different way? Or, and if I feel if I've accomplished that, if they come to me and they're just like, yo, I feel the emotion on that. And when you spoke about that subject in such a clever way, it spoke to me. That's a win for me. As long as I have, one person that comes to me and feels that way, that's a win.
Yeah.
We play a different type of game here. It's more than just being like a popular personality. I'm trying to change thought processes. I'm trying to change lives with what it is that I do. So
that's so cool. That is like, that's what you hope to hear from, I think, anybody who's pursuing the arts.
Yeah.
I think there's a level to it where people don't understand that the people that are smallly making, or in small ways making successes, are the ones who have really like grinded so hard below the surface, got intact with who they are, their emotions, the way they think, and then they transfer that into everything that they do. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people want to come to Hollywood, or a lot of people want to go into the music industry. They want to go to Capitol Records. They want to do that stuff because they know that so-and-so that they listened to growing up did it. So I want to do that. But then they don't connect the dots that there's a huge list of things that you have to do in order to even be considered to be in the mainstream, or to have made it, right?
Yeah, the top of the top.
And that's what's so cool, is like intelligence always wins the day, no matter what it is. And like that, to me, that's what I was getting from what you were saying, is like being lyrical in hip hop and that's why for me, I've soaked it up as like, it's my favorite genre of music, because, not necessarily for like the crass themes sometimes, or that stuff.
There's some of that in there.
There's some of it. And I think if that was a personal experience or something and they share it, that's an expression of them. Right. But for me, I'm listening to it because it gets me thinking. Every time I sit and listen, I'm challenged to understand what they're saying, or try to see what
puzzles.
Story.
You're putting puzzles out there for people. Those were the MCs that I listened to growing up. And, even just the term MC, Master of Ceremonies, like you couldn't even get on the microphone back in the day unless you had something to say, something that was going to add to the music.
Yeah.
It started with the DJs, that were scratching the records. And it was like, you're not going to grab that microphone unless you've got something important to say and add to it. And back in the day, it was a sport where like a lot of the rhymes were about like, my rhymes are better than this guy's rhymes.
Yeah.
I challenge anybody to come with me.
That was
it's
Eminem.
A battle of words.
That was 8 Mile. Yeah.
Definitely. And somewhere it's, it's gotten about like who has the coolest vibe, or the coolest shoes, or has the most girls, or, the coolest cars. And not to knock guys like that, but the legacy that I want to leave in this craft is to be like the Lupe Fiascos of the world, to be like the Lauryn Hills of the world, where it's you gotta go back and be like, what did they just say? Or like 10 years later, I listen, it's like, oh, because I've seen this movie or I've read this book, I understand that theme a whole lot more now. And it's like, oh, like I love those.
Yeah.
Like those moments are like
the best.
They're the best. Like, oh snap, I didn't even notice that on the first listen because I was bobbing my head. But now the second, third, fourth, fifth listen, there's still gems that are in there. And I definitely,
so many.
As a rhymer of words, I think it's, especially in a field where so many people are doing it, I think it's our responsibility to give a different type of product for people.
Totally.
Something that's a cut above, that shows mastery. I'm in rooms with musicians that have, had calloused fingers on guitars since they were like, 6 years old, 7 years old.
Because they've been doing it for so long.
They've been doing it for so long. So I think, that dedication to craft, that's what makes me feel confident when I'm in rooms where it's like, okay, this guy is intentional with his words, where every single one, even just down to the syllables that are in there, the timing, going in triplets and things like that, there has to be a reason behind each word. And that's having a background in communication and having different formats of communication. I think it gives me an edge to where I can say that I am the best rapper in the Valley. Yeah. I'm shooting for LA too. So.
Yeah, let's go. Way to go. All right, well, that's a good stopping point for the break. So we'll go to break. We'll be right back. Yeah, we're back. Yeah. And so we were kind of just talking about a drive of the show, and a drive that I think a lot of creatives share, is that you, like, as much as you're trying to push for the growth of yourself in your future, you're also looking at the next generation and trying to see how, and you're doing that with Potluck, which is really cool, but try to see how you can groom people that are 10 years younger than you, maybe, or 8 or however many years, and try to see how you can groom up that next generation or encourage them. And my biggest thing is, if I wish that in high school, like, my parents were very supportive, and I got a lot of support from them in the arts, and that was a huge reason I kept going. But like, I knew a lot of my friends didn't have that. And I wish that they would have heard a couple more things that would have probably kept them in the industry, instead of having them ship out. And now they're doing, they're working at Vaughn's, and which is not wrong. Like, not wrong. I'm just saying they didn't take it to the next level.
It's different when you feel as if there's like talents that are being buried. Right.
And there's only some I think that really, really taste it so much from a young age. They know, like, my mom and I were talking yesterday, and she's like, like, a lot of people just, they don't taste it as young. They don't have the exact idea of what they want to do. They graduate college and they feel lost because they're not exactly sure what it is.
Huge epidemic right now.
It's so bad. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of it that's unsaid. And I think, people in the arts, this is why I do this show, is I want people to grasp on to themes that are deeper than social media, that are deeper than a surface career job that might not be your favorite, that you are choosing the risk of the arts because you know that you want to bring something to it, or that you're going to grind enough to the point where you're going to break just to see if it'll work.
Right.
And not to get that job 100% all the time. Not to break it right into the mainstream right away.
Right.
Not to hit all those marks that society sets, that so many people think that if you move to LA or you move to New York or you move, wherever it is that has the industry you want in the arts, that's going to satisfy you, or that's going to be it. Like, there's a lot to be demystified there from people who now live in LA. I grew up here. I was in Burbank my whole life, and like,
it's like the hub.
Yeah, and you've traveled around, and like you know the industry now, and it's sad. I wish more people understood that the amount of work that you got to put in and how intense that is, but at the same time how rewarding and like how amazing, for the most part, the people that are involved in it are.
Right.
There's so many things that like don't get said, and I wish that some people would know it. That they'd be able to keep going. And I don't know. I know that's kind of what you're doing with Potluck, so I'm interested to hear what you think.
I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, and I think there's a couple of things that again, if I could break it up into two, like what you were just saying, there's people who are creative that have a desire to be in the industry, and it might be a God-given desire. It might be like, this is what I'm good at. I know that when I do this, it brings me joy, and it brings joy to other people. There's this principle. I think it's a Japanese principle. It's called Iike Guy, where there's what you're good at, there's what can make you money, and then there's what the world needs. And when you get those three things together, like, it's like a Venn diagram, but it's like that a key spot in the middle is like, that's where you get that piece. So I think there's people who are genuinely created to be creatives. And that's their way of adding to this great painting of life. And there's other people that might want to get like a quick buck, or might want to just come out here and, want the shine or want a little bit of the fame, and they're not necessarily prepared for the grind that's out here. And like you said, there's some people that just, they don't come up in environments where they see that it's a possibility to make a sustainable income. So whenever I work with people, and because it's happening more often now, or there's people like, like, I want to rap, or like, you should let me in the booth with you. And I'm very hesitant when I get that type of energy, because it's like, I want to make sure that everybody is prepared for the grind so that they don't end up disenfranchised. I look up to the Steve Jobs of the world, to the Walt Disneys. There's that meme that goes around of like the garages that they started in, and where they were when they were 21, 22, 23. that the periods of hopelessness, you know, where it's just like, okay, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? My friends are going on and taking like these corporate jobs, or there's some people that might forsake college, you know, to pursue the arts, which I think it's unique for each and every single person, and you have to really find out what works best for you, and how you're going to get to a point where you can make a sustainable income for your life.
Right.
But it's so important. So I would say that the challenge is to understand, number one, like your purpose. I would definitely say that like identify those things that, you know, okay, does this bring you joy? And does it bring joy to other people when you do this, when you're in your element? There's some people that need to be a little bit more realistic with themselves, where if it's just a pipe dream, then, you know, I call it like a wanna do, you know, where it's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. But what are you actually working on? What are you like? Is this the type of thing where you're willing to forsake hangouts with friends sometimes? That's
it. That's one huge one.
You know what I mean?
I think that's half of it.
Am I going to choose this over Netflix? Is this the thing where it's, you know, I work my 9 to 5, which I still have these days. You know, as a creative, sometimes you go through periods where you don't, and sometimes you do. But it's like, does this keep me up at night? Do I feel disturbed if I'm not working on this? Do I feel like I'm doing a disservice to the world by not, you know, investing in this talent? And once you start to answer those questions and you see where that leads you, then you can understand, all right, now I need to get in a community that's going to help promote and foster this type of growth. Like, you need the resources, you need people that are believing in you, you need to be able to see people that are doing it. Yeah. You know, and I'm luckily I've had mentors. Like, my dad's not a super creative type of person, although there is creativity in everything that he does. Like, even, you know, like a dissertation, you know, writing a dissertation, you're creating, so much. You know what I mean? So you're creating new ways of doing business. And that's why I love this show, that I'm even able to talk about this, because I often say that what I do is almost 20% creative and 80% strategy and planning. So I would like the opportunity, like I have now, to show that it's not just, you know, MP3 files. We're talking Word docs. We're talking Excel spreadsheets. We're talking, you know, Dropbox logins. We're talking Slack chats, where, you know, it's, you know,
I know it.
Yeah, where it's organization, it's strategy, it's planning, it's making sure that we have a system. Because if you choose to go and you choose to create a system that's unlike what's out there already, you have to really put in the dedication to make it work. Yeah. If you want to make something that will eventually be able to pay other people, create jobs for others, you have to have a certain level of organization. Creative energy can often be described as like, you know, water. You know, it can spill, it can flow, it can crash. But what is the vase that you're going to put it in? What is the structure? What is the hard work? Like, I have my boss at work, but then I'm also my toughest boss, where it's, you know, okay, you need to make sure that you schedule your sessions out in advance. This isn't a thing that I just wake up and just, I feel like. No, there's times where I have to push past the feelings, where it's like, this deadline is necessary. Yeah. When sometimes you don't have other people that are giving you a deadline, you have to create that for yourself. You have to create these workflows. Like, my team will tell you, like, workflow is like the number one word that I use whenever there's an error, whenever there's an issue in communication or productivity. It's, let's go back and look at this. Let's reverse engineer everything that we do and find out how to make it work better. And I that's why I've started the Potluck, because I want to have an environment for people to where they can really get a good idea of, like, is this what I want to do with my life? Some people, they think it's just, you know, mumbling, huh, and, you know, and that's cool. But other people, when they find out how much work it really takes to make it and to see progress, it's sometimes they're discouraged. You really have to sacrifice your way of living. You have to sacrifice some of the things that other people get to do. Like, this is what we're doing on a Saturday morning, when other people are probably laying in bed scrolling on Instagram and you know, eating cereal or watching cartoons. Yeah. It's as somebody who feels that you've been given the responsibility of creating content, you really have to press in and tap in to the work that's behind it. Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, perfectly well said. Like, the whole thing is something that needs to be said, needs to be heard, and that's the cool thing about what you guys are doing. And I think it's really really cool. Yeah. But there are people like us that are doing the same thing. There's a lot of us that are in this 20s age range that are not, but then there's a lot of us that are. and it's just segmented into a very small section of the ones who are like, you know, nonstop. Everything they do, they, like you said, they have their own boss in their head. It's them,
right,
telling them how they should do things, and you know, not taking that second off, you know, setting up early, writing and doing all that stuff hours and days in advance.
Missing out on dates, missing out on parties.
Yeah, you have to do those things. You have to if you want to pursue it. So now I guess my follow-up is music pursuable? Because this is something that I think is going to resonate with a lot of people, because a lot of people want to know, can I even do it full time?
It's realistic if you're passionate. And I don't say passionate meaning just like the way that word is kind of thrown around. There's no passion without sacrifice. There's no love without sacrifice. So if you're really willing to sacrifice for it, to go through that grind, to get the resources together, I mean, there's more money in music now than there ever has been before, especially with hip hop. In this day and age where we have a lot of independent artists of all ages, we're even seeing like the first platinum artist that was born in the new millennium, Billie Eilish. She had a #1 album and went platinum. I think she's technically the first that was born in this millennium, and
that's amazing.
It's happening, but we also have to find, like we said, reverse engineer that. Don't just look at her being on, you know, in these big commercials or being on the front page of Apple Music. Like, what does that look like? How many songs do you need to write a day? How you know, do you make your own music, or do you have to, you know, are you going to collaborate with other people? How frequently are you going to get together? Are you going to read the books? You know, every artist that I work with, I make sure that they read All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. It's written by a lawyer, but it's preparing you to understand things like, you know, okay, royalty breakdowns, mechanical royalties, sync royalties, performance royalties, understanding split sheets, understanding the work for hire, you know, to where how are you gonna pay your musicians?
Yeah.
What are you going to do once this influx of money comes in? It's a numbers game. It's an algorithm that you can get into, and I think it is realistic for those who, number one, have the talent, because talent is sometimes it can be subjective. So I wouldn't want anybody to feel discouraged because they don't have a lot of streams or anything. That's not always indicative of your talent. But sometimes you do have to be honest with yourself and say, you know, am I really good at this? When I play my songs, you know, have some people around you that can really give constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And say, like, when I play these songs for people, you know, do I notice that they're not really bobbing their heads?
Yeah.
That might not mean quit. That means, like, let me go back into it and work on my craft a little bit more.
It's also, not to butt in, but it's also a thing where if you're not being realistic with yourself in general, and you want to pursue the arts, then you're going to have a rocky time, because unfortunately with this industry, if you have to know the competition. I think a lot of people don't think about the competition. They think that it's so doable because I could just upload a song now. It's internet. I can just do it. You can. But at the same time, there's a new level to it where you're not just uploading a song. Now you're having to promote it.
Yep.
You used to, in the analog way, obviously, you used to be able to get with a label if you were good enough, and only if you were good enough.
Only if you were good enough.
You couldn't record because otherwise it would cost a lot of money. Same with film. Like you would pay for film if you wanted to shoot something.
Yep.
And if you had money, you could. But a lot of people don't because it costs a ton of money to do it.
Yeah, it used to be so much more expensive to start up.
And that's why the legends were created. The legends were created out of that because there were only the ones that were great enough, and those business minds that thought of it did it. But all I'm trying to say is, and you can go back to your spiel, is just that I think people need to start thinking and being realistic with themselves and saying, okay, this is something I want to do really bad, but like, do I have any experience in it?
Right.
Not that I don't have experience. You could be great at it. You could pick it up for the first time and be great.
Right.
But is it realistic for me to bet all of my success on something that I'm not sure if I'm actually going to succeed in?
Right.
Like, you always have to have a backup plan. Like you said it, your dream is to do hip hop, but you're also working.
Yeah.
People don't realize, people come out here and then they say, I'm going to go all in.
Right.
And that's good. But like, you still have to make money.
Yeah.
The arts have to be monetized.
Yeah.
And if you can't monetize what your main hustle or what you want to do is, then you need to be doing something else. So keep going off of that.
Yeah, I'm not the artist that's, that came out here with $5 in his pocket, and there are those exceptions that do make it. to get into a pad and smoke weed all day with my boys and consider myself a musician because I have an artistic looking persona, or my hair is cool, or my jacket is flying fresh. It's really about, like, when I knew that I was, able to take it serious, was, okay, this is the thing that I choose after a long day of work.
Right.
When, a lot of people would go to like substances or, other types of content to, kind of numb them out and ease the pain. It's like, I need to keep working at this.
This eases the pain.
This is the thing.
Right.
So the getting in love with the process. And there's a lot of people that might be, their talents or their timing might be misplaced. Maybe you're not the artist. For me, I didn't even start off as wanting to be the artist. I just wanted to promote other people. I started off with photography. That's how the Potluck started. I was like, okay, I want to do creative development for other artists. Like, I know there's a lot of people that are talented out here that they have great music, but their photography might be bad, or their Instagram, they might not be able to structure a rollout, and I want to work with them.
Yeah.
But I was working with one artist that was signed to Atlantic Records when I started the Potluck, but I noticed that he wasn't putting the time into the craft, and he wasn't dedicated to it, and it became like evident and clear to me where it's like, okay, like right now I am the product. This music that I have, like, I'm talented enough to do it, and I'm dedicated enough to do it. So this is where I am, and I feel like that's why I'm blessed too, because I'm okay with various types of jobs in this industry. I'm okay with being a writer, with being a producer, with being an A&R, an executive that kind of ushers in the next generation. I always have in the back of my mind, like, if I'm doing this just to be like a tunnel digger, to be able to create, make that light at the end of the tunnel for the next artist. I'm always looking for the next artist that's more talented than me. Like, I'm humble enough to admit when people are better than me.
Yeah, but then you're creating a team.
Yeah. So it's having
you're being able to make a collective of this talent, which is another level of the arts that people don't understand.
Yeah, being a team builder, and like the burden of, these are the people that I talk to the most, and we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So making sure that I'm scouting for talent, that I'm listening to their, not just their dreams, but also their goals, and helping it become realistic for them. Okay, it's like, where do you want to be in this industry? I think if it's just you right now, I think you got to ask yourself that. Where do I want to be? Where do I have to be Drake, where I have like the mansion in Calabasas and the millions of streams? Or am I okay with being a local artist that can tour, for the love of it, and still work a day job, and, just put out good content, and, do acts and services for my community. And so I use that platform in a positive way. Yeah. Am I okay with being a writer making 6 figures a year? If I make, $200,000, $300,000 a year, I make more than, a lot of people's parents do. And that's realistic.
That's true.
So definitely the team aspect in building, collaborating with others, which also takes work. Yeah, it's egos, ideas, goals that you all have to bring together, and it's compromising as well, which can be an ugly word to like artists and creatives at times. But it's it's making something that works for the sum of all the parts. It has to be something that is good for all of us involved.
Totally. Wow, this has been great, dude. We're already getting toward the end, so let's kind of sadly, we could probably go for hours, honestly. Definitely. But let's kind of wrap up with some stuff you've got going on with Potluck, with your brand. Like, you obviously released your album, but you have other artists that are kind of in your label. So like in a couple minutes, just kind of what's the path? How are you going to take all of that to the next level? Like, or you have some of your artists, are they going to be releasing albums? How's the whole thing going to work?
Yeah, we have the main focus is the production team right now, where we've got Justin, Just Beats Garner, and we've also got Eric de Guzman, who you guys have heard on Tenta. This is not the album, but the transitions that are on there. They're both already working in the music industry, so their main source of income is from their music, this was a main goal for us right now, where I want to see the creators be able to see that you can make a sustainable income off of this. We have graphic designers, Marini McGuire. She did all of the graphic design that was built around the album and the release of it. Yeah. And we also got Holly Grace Jamili. She's a student at NYU in their music program.
Very cool.
And she's a Valley girl. She goes out there for school and then she comes back for the summer. But just focusing on the rollouts and all the marketing behind it. She's also about to accept an internship at like the biggest record label. Like I can't.
Yeah, I could say.
But
Wow,
I'm
awesome.
not gonna say.
Yeah.
But just seeing these opportunities for people, and that's the biggest thing about for me as a leader. I always say that a leader is not defined by how many followers they have, but by how many leaders they create. So seeing that people are already in those places, the creativity flows from there. We've got Noah Bentley, who's going to be releasing more content soon. I've got projects coming out with a few other acts in the Valley.
Awesome.
We're looking to expand the team right now. So artists that are interested, you're looking for that team, or you're looking for that positive environment to where you can have people that believe in you, that are going to be honest with you, and put in the work that's necessary to make your goals, not just your dreams, but your goals a reality. I have Evan, who Evan just came on board. You heard her on track 4 on the project. Yeah,
yes.
Incredibly talented young artist. She's going to school in Columbia University out in Chicago. So
brains, man.
Yeah, so we're expanding now. Yeah. So it's just like developing the workflow to become a national team. With technology, we can bring in stems and different tracks and stuff, and put these albums together. But a lot coming soon. We've got a Potluck project that we're going to be releasing this year.
Very cool.
Yes,
like a collaboration.
A collaboration album? With
cool.
People on the team, and then also I want to work with other artists. And other artists in the Valley and in Los Angeles to highlight their talents as well. Mm-hmm. The photographers that we're working with, the videographers, Streety Cinema, who shoots all of my video content.
Awesome, dude.
He's working out in LA and Hollywood. Yeah. So it's great, as there's some people that are transitioning into bigger jobs out in Hollywood. We're going to have like a new crop of talent that's coming in now, mm-hmm. that we bring them into the workflow and make sure we highlight their abilities as well.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Well, let's do the NBA shirt swap.
Yes.
He brought me some merch, so I'm going to show you guys what he's got. The Potluck logo right here. And then this is your catchphrase, right? Everybody
That's the
cooks.
mantra. Everybody cooks, everybody eats.
There you go.
Yes.
We swapped him ours.
I've got my 1 in 20 show.
There you go.
Rogers.
There you go.
The beautiful face on the back of this show, man. Like, I'm going to just walk around like this. And I'm it's like people are gonna respond to me differently.
I can't. The problem is with doing the branding like that is I can't wear it. I can't wear it.
I have one with my face on it, or with the album cover. I'm like, this is kind of vain.
Yeah, it kind of is.
But I love for other people. I will definitely be sporting this, man.
Dude, that's so sweet. Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you on. You're Hundo at JPEG, right?
Yeah,
Hundo.jpg.
Hundo.jpg.
Yep. On Instagram, on everything. Sir. Are you just on Instagram?
I'm on Twitter as well. I need to spend more time tweeting. I put all my thoughts into songs, so sometimes it's difficult. Yeah. But at Hundo PTOK on Twitter, and that's the same thing for my SoundCloud. Yeah. I'm on Apple Music, Spotify, Tidal, Google Play.
There you go.
Amazon.
All of them.
Deezer.
Dang, you're on all.
I don't even know what Deezer is.
Yo, well, you're on it.
Shout out Deezer.
Well, be sure to check out Potluck too. They've got a lot of cool stuff coming. Just beats, everything, all that stuff you guys got coming up, and follow along with us. Be sure to subscribe. I'm gonna start saying it now. I didn't say it before as much. Subscribe.
Yes.
That helps us out.
Yes. And let me make sure I'm subscribed, man.
Oh my god.
Let me make sure this is very.
Oh my gosh. Hey, look, that's how it goes. But
support your friends.
Yeah, support your friends. But be sure to do that. Follow us at 1 in 20 Show on social media, and be sure to catch everything we got coming up. We're nearing in on episode 50 in about a year. That's a ton of content that we've been putting out. We believe in it. We believe in you guys, and we want to take this all to the next level. So keep in the loop with us. We got lots to come. Subscribe, listen, do what you got to do. Thanks for being on. It's been awesome.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Best
interview, hands down.
Oh, awesome. That's great. I'm glad you like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll catch you guys soon. Thanks for watching.